Good, everybody. Hi, everybody. Excited, obviously. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. This is Ellensburg, Washington, USA, home of Central Washington University. My name is Nick Zentner, and the local time is 11:46 a.m. Pacific time. And today's date is Thursday, February 27th, 2025. This is the last episode of the alphabet. We have 300 people already standing by live and ready to roll. That's nice to see. Thank you for being here, you early birds. Plenty of time to talk to many of you, ask where you're viewing from, and yes, we have spring weather here. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, bluebird skies, the snow is gone. I love it. It's my favorite time of the year. Early March through early May. Mwah. Where are you viewing from today? Baker City, Oregon. Newland, North Carolina. Broken Tent in Baja, says Saber. St. Paul, Minnesota. Vietnam, hello. Mundi Viator. Seattle, Washington. Webb Lake, Wisconsin. Bourne, Texas. Pendleton, Oregon. Down to live suddenly against my will. Hurricane, Utah. Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Santan Valley. 85 degrees down there, no big deal. Kirk is in Grass Valley, California. Fall City, Washington. Brooklyn, New York. The Netherlands. Lawrenceville, Georgia. Chico, California. Madison, Wisconsin. Moscow, Idaho. I'm back a ways just to slow the chat down to be able to read. Pat the Pilot is chiming in from Natchez, Washington. Forest Grove, Oregon. Sharon from Malaga. Salem, Oregon. Newport Beach, California. Birmingham, lovely Birmingham, UK. Hello. Garrett, the Dutch night owl from the Netherlands. Birch Bay, Washington. Castroville, Texas. Smith County, Virginia. We are everywhere, says somebody. Enumclaw, Washington. Heinrich from Bow, Washington. What's up, homie? Elko, Nevada. Down here live. Plain, Washington. San Diego, California. Burlington, Washington. Sequim, Washington. Kalamazoo, Gary. Sunny Yakima. That's Pat Miller. Every time I see your name, Pat, I always feel like I want to share your gift. This was created 5 years ago by Pat Miller in Yakima, Washington. And you're like, that is such an amazing piece of art, and I agree. Spring of 2020. Pat and Karen Miller, thank you. And you're like, what's up with that? Why did he do that? That's so weird. Well, a few years before that, almost 10 years before that, I dropped this hammer by mistake down a crack out in the channeled scablands. And forget the guy's name, but somebody in Albuquerque was up looking for it, and he found it and returned it to me. Yes, it's official. I am in a nostalgic mood this morning. More coming on that later in the program today. Lindsay Malone from Seattle. Glenn Cruikshank from Liberty Lake, Washington. That's in Spokane area. How about a few more? Asheville, North Carolina. That's Stan. Graham is in Bourbon-Gary, Australia. I didn't screw it up that time, Stan. You proud of me? It's like, yeah, I guess. Like, is it that hard to read the English language? Yeah, sometimes it is. Chesapeake, Virginia. Bring on the nostalgia, says Elaine. Oh, I got both barrels coming at you later on today. Finland, Sisters, Oregon, Orlando, Florida. Hello, Geology Grandma. Richard's in Vienna, Austria, where it's 8:50 p.m. local time, and gave us the temperature as well. Yeah, you want another shot? I mean, it's so. Yeah, we have a class change now. Central students. I'm just giving you that shot today because of that sky. It is delightful out there. I was just sitting out there in the sun. Yeah, backcountry Gary. It's even sunny in Darrington, for goodness sake. It's been a long time coming for this weather. I've got no thank yous. Fine by me. Let's just do a few more hellos to vote another round of where are you viewing from, and then I will take my walk and probably take an extra minute or two out there to sit in the sun. It's so nice. And I need to ramp up today because I think today's going to be a long one. Jim is at Ethod, Lake Koshkonong, Bothell, Washington, sunny Seattle, reports Stevie Pinhead. Nanaimo, British Columbia. Hello, Trevor. Nina is homesick for the Northwest. Grand Ronde Valley, Oregon, USA. Nona is in Leander, Texas, y'all. I added the y'all part. Bernadette is boarding an 8-hour flight from the Philippines to Seattle. That sounds like a long flight, Bernadette. I hope you have entertainment packed and ready to go. Budapest, Hungary. Hello. Everybody's nostalgic now. You're tossing in all sorts of memories. Yeah, we'll save that for the last part of the show today. Good feelings, seeing all this stuff. Good feelings, what can I say? I guess I have one quick announcement, and that is our final Friday noon talk of the quarter will be happening tomorrow. And Paul Winberry he has an office here. He does not teach classes, but he's a research associate at CWU. Hannah Shamloo will be introducing him tomorrow at noon. Tomorrow is Friday, 28th. Yeah, I'm amped. Tomorrow is Friday, February 28th. And at noon Pacific, there'll be a special lecture that I will live stream on this channel called Using Geophysics. Okay, all right, okay. I need you to hot mic in front of you. Slow yourself down. You're excited. You're too excited. You're too excited. And you have not been speaking much this morning to anyone. You've been by yourself all morning. You didn't speak in yoga. You didn't speak when you made scrambled eggs and sausage. Bijou was outside enjoying the weather. You were not speaking to Bijou the cat. You walked in. You didn't speak then either. Wake your mouth up, please. Hot mic. Tune in tomorrow to Using Geophysics to Better Constrain Antarctica's Future Sea Level Contributions. That is sure to be a good talk tomorrow by Paul Winberry. A couple of final hellos to those of you who are watching in distant lands, and then I will be taking my walk before we begin the program at noon. Salem, Oregon. Scrolling back. Simmer down now. Simmer down. Simmer down now. Simmer down. Okay, I can't even find more places. Jefferson City, Missouri. There's Mark. Mark, you started with us at the beginning. You're still with us at the end. Thank you. Craig says, holy crap, I actually made it live from Lapine, Oregon. Holy crap, Craig, you're here. Live. And Jan is in Grenoble, Germany. Hello. Guten Tag. Guten Nacht. Guten evening. Guten Nacht. Okay. Thank you for being with us. We'll start in 5 minutes. Hope you enjoy this last episode. entitled Goat Rocks. Okay, seriously. You're excited, but if you rush, it's not going to work. You have an audience who is here. They want to enjoy the episode. You have almost 600 live people now. There's going to be more than 1,000 probably, even in the middle of a work day on a Thursday. Why? Because it's the last show. Everybody wants to see the finale. So just treat it like it's just another episode. You've been in the zone. You've been off for 5 days, but you just get into the zone. You know how you're going to start, right? You're going to get right to the Goat Rocks. You're going to introduce the 3 acts, and then you're going to go right to the Goat Rocks, and it'll just feel so comfortable. But the Queen of England isn't out there. It's just a bunch of people who know you. They are happy to be here. You don't have to prove anything to them. Just do more of what you've been doing. You moron? They want more. That's it. They want more. So just do more. More of the same. Find the right tempo and just ride it. Just ride it. All right, take your walk. A pleasant good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the end. Welcome to the end of the alphabet, episode Z, or Z for our Canadian viewers, entitled Goat Rocks. Goat Rocks. And that's where we begin today. The first act of this program will be the Goat Rocks, using the same format, using the same new format that we've used this entire winter. Annotated photos, rainbow labels, video clips recorded on Zoom from different geologists, maps, old papers, new papers, and so on. I think it's worked, if you'll allow me to say that out loud. I think the new format has worked this winter, and we haven't used that new format before. And that'll come back a little bit later, because after Act 1, Act 2 will be looking back at this current alphabet, the alphabet that we are finishing today, Cascades A to Z. Now, if you have been with me with prior alphabets, Session Z has always been a roundtable. You know, we've had live geologists on screen, 3 or even 4 heads on screen at the same time, and we're going back and forth about what happened in the alphabet and looking ahead to the future. I tried it for the first time with the Dream Team, with the exotic terrains A to Z. That was Mike Eddy, Bob Miller, and Stacia Gordon. You might remember that. The next winter was Baja, BC, and the last episode, Z, was Basil Tikoff, Karin Siglock, and Stephen Johnston. And that was an international discussion talking about this radical idea called Baja, BC. And again, those episode Zs were looking back at the alphabet and pulling out major themes and also talking about future work. Last winter, we had the 3 kings of the Ice Age, Jerome Lessman, Sky Cooley, and Joel Gombiner. But I thought briefly about having live guests on today, but we haven't been doing live interviews the whole winter, so I've come up with a new way to reflect on the alphabet. And we'll be doing that in a couple of different ways with 2 different geologists, maybe even 3 different geologists. So that's coming for Act 2. In Act 3, we're going to get our calendars out, you and I, and we're going to talk about the future and things that I have planned for spring, summer, and even fall, and things you can put on your calendar for live streams coming up and even public events that you can attend in person if they sound good to you. Okay, that's the plan. Let's do first things first, the Goat Rocks, to finish out the series. And if we go to the website, we can go to the video library. There's one 30-minute conversation. This is tradition, a struggle. Jeff Tepper came back for a 7th appearance, a 7th recorded interview. It's been a while since we've talked to Jeff, and Jeff did talk about the alphabet, and we're going to look at selected segments from that. But that's the only thing new in the video library in the last 5 days. And the papers I have for you today for episode Z, Kelly Wall, her PhD, Ellingson, Jack Ellingson, his PhD from the Goat Rocks, Hans Schmieke, his PhD from Johns Hopkins University on the Ellensburg Formation, Daryl Gussie, the Tieton andesite, Paul Hammond. Let's look at that real quick. Daryl Gussie found this, and he sent it to me. And this was made in 2012 by Paul Hammond, and he was still working at the time. This is the same Paul Hammond that passed away last month. And here's his to-do list. I'll let you look at it in all its gory detail. But he had a long to-do list. After year 53 summers in a row, he was still wanting to do all sorts of stuff in this Paul Hammond to-do list. Thank you, Daryl, for that. The 1950s master's thesis. So there's plenty of old and new stuff tied to the Goat Rocks and Hammond land in general. So that's waiting for you, of course. But I'm anxious to get right into this because I have a lot. We're probably going long today. Probably no surprise to many of you, but we're going long today. So let's go to Circle Cam and lay this out. And I guess, hang on. I guess, I'm getting finicky here. One last time, let's look at this. I don't know if it's necessary, but yeah, we've made it to the end of the alphabet. Here we are up in purple time, the Goat Rocks volcano primarily. in the last 10 million years. We know the color scheme has worked. I think it's worked well for us this entire winter, and here we are. And some of you will remember to tune in for a live Antarctic geophysics lecture tomorrow at noon. This is what we were doing the last couple of episodes, and those Caldera programs were particularly popular, and lots of emails from many of you reacting to the work of Team Caldera and others. And so this kind of a business is the last couple of episodes, and here we are, and only here today in the Goat Rocks. Okay, now let's do the slideshow and follow our nose. Yep, we're up here. We know that, and we are finishing today. And this spring, when I do Geology 351, I probably will continue thinking about the Goat Rocks. So you might go, finally, we're to the Goat Rocks. Let's get started. Well, we've been talking about the Goat Rocks the whole winter, right? What was the reason we were spending so much time thinking about Ugly Russell Ranch and the Rimrock Lake Inlier and the basalt of Summit Creek and the basalt of Discovery Creek and the green Ohanapikosh and the brown Columbia River basalt lavas? Part of the reason was Haley Finch, graduate student of Hannah Shamloo and the Goat Rocks Project. They're working with those units. They wanted to learn more about those units. And so I always had Haley and Hannah in the back of my mind when I was going through those units. So yeah, we're finally arriving physically at Goat Rocks volcano and the volcanic complex known as Goat Rocks, but we've been sprinkling in concepts related to the Goat Rocks project the entire winter. Okay, very good. So Mount Adams is nearby. It's a beautiful, majestic, mostly mysterious stratovolcano that stands and has the potential of eruption. More coming on that this spring. We know that Mount Mazama in southern Oregon erupted violently 7,700 years ago, and it created a caldera. Not just a crater, but a caldera. The entire mountain gone, and a collapse to create the caldera that still is there today, and the blue waters of Crater Lake National Park sit inside of that caldera. So I've seen some of you in the live chat and a bunch of emails saying, well, how about the caldera at Mount St. Helens? Nobody's calling this, which formed in 1980, of course, nobody in geology is calling this a caldera. It's a size thing. It's a crater. And this is not a collapse structure. This is the north side of Mount St. Helens blowing out. But we'll talk more about this also in the springtime. But it's these calderas that have been the intense point of focus for us the past couple of episodes in particular. And from Dave Tucker one more time, his cartoons where we have a collapse of the roof of the magma chamber, which is mostly a collapse thing, and all this pyroclastic material is being sent all over God and creation, but also settling into this newly formed depression. And so evidence even today of finding these things called calderas in the Cascades, it's really a game of looking for extra thick pyroclastic fill. That's really the way to map out these calderas. And it doesn't seem like it's controversial. Most everybody can find these incredibly thick piles of pyroclastic material and talus and other things with a sharp edge, a sharp boundary, are calling these things calderas. I see we have Backcountry Gary in the live chat. We got Jamie McDonald in the live chat. We have Jeff Tepper in the live chat. I just glanced briefly. We got an all-star cast in the live chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So one more time, I can't stop showing Gary Paul photographs. You've seen these twice now, I think, in two different letters. But we're remembering that these old calderas, and this is not that old, of course, but these old calderas are lurking in the high Cascades, in the low Cascades. How many more of these caldera-filled deposits will be found? In part, thanks to the work of Team Caldera. 3.72 million years old. Dave Tucker and the Hannigan caldera. You're like, slow down. I want to see these photos. We've already seen them. 2 different episodes. I'm just reminding you of the majesty and the beauty of this photography and also this landscape. These are the landscapes that we're calling the Cascades. And news to me, and I think most everybody here, you can have caldera fill going back to green time, 35 million years ago. How many more calderas from green time can we find? Are there any more? There must be. Yes. So where are we going today? We're going to the Goat Rocks because the Goat Rocks is a place that's been heavily dissected by erosion. And there is a caldera at Goat Rocks, and that caldera has been filled by an amazing amount of ash, tephra, pyroclastic flow, and other things. And so if we go to the Goat Rocks, we can find it. The Devil's Horn Caldera Fill, introduced late in the last episode, is where we start today. It's this fill that is a major part of the Goat Rocks project last summer, this coming summer, and beyond by Hannah Shamloo and her students. And this is a new photo for you from Carey. The Devil's Horns rhyolite itself. Devil's Horns makes a summit, apparently. This is news to me. And even from a distance, you can see how rhyolitic, how pinkish, how high silica, how sticky this stuff looks to be. This is a view from near Surprise Lake on the South Fork, Tieton River. Let's push in, Carey. Thank you, Carey, for, I don't know how many brand new Carey photos we have, but this is one, I'm confident. I'm not showing this one to you yet. Where are we? The Goat Rocks. Is there a peak called Devil's Horn? Yeah, you bet there is. It's 3.2 million years old. It's from the earliest days of the Goat Rocks volcanic action. Now, if you look carefully at a different view, also from backcountry Gary Paul, view northeast from near Surprise Lake, we can see Bear Creek Mountain, and that's the elevation. And we can see some lava flows flowing kind of, I don't know, right to left, I guess. We're not even sure. And Daryl Gussie was blown away by this photograph and says, I'm still not sure exactly which flow that is. I'm not sure it's been studied. Wonderful to see photos inspire new work in addition to this other stuff we've been doing. Okay, so where are we? Portland, Oregon. The Dalles, Oregon. This is the Columbia River forming the boundary between the state of Oregon and the state of Washington. Here's Mount Adams. Here's Mount St. Helens. Heard of it. And here's the Goat Rocks. Now, on this map, it looks like the Goat Rocks is just as active as St. Helens and Adams. It is not. We all know that the Goat Rocks volcanic complex is dead. It's been dead for more than 100,000 years. And it has no chance of future eruption. Guess who's back one more time? He sent this last night. Tom from Maple Valley. Using the appropriate color for today, purple. Thank you, Tom. This little town of Packwood, the city of Yakima. Here's US 12, up and over White Pass. Here's Mount Rainier. So we've come full circle in a way because in the first few letters of the alphabet, we were preoccupied with the Rimrock Lake inlier. Here's Rimrock Lake. This is the Tieton andesite, which will be folded into today's episode, and here is the heart of the Goat Rocks volcanic complex. But there's plenty of purple rocks, even down here, almost to the Fred Meyer in Yakima. So we start with the old papers and Jack Ellingson, a PhD. You have this full PhD waiting for you. It's a Goat Rocks PhD. I mean, if we're back that far, the visuals are not up to snuff, maybe even the originals, but certainly the copies are not up to snuff. But this cross-section works for me and maybe for you as well, coming through the Goat Rocks in the late 1960s. Here's Devil's Horn. Here's Black Thumb, Conrad Glacier, Sispus River, Bear Creek Mountain. I've vaguely heard of these places. But I want you to notice there's a major pluton here. And there is Ugly Russell Ranch, pre-tertiary, undifferentiated basement rock. And then there's this younger than 3 million year old volcanic material. So there's some hints of some interesting narratives at the Goat Rocks, even from this PhD in 1969. I just grabbed a few little segments that caught my eye. Let me read them quickly. This is Ellingson, PhD from Washington State University. The Devil's Horns pyroclastic deposits are nearly horizontal layers of volcanic breccia, conglomerate, sandstone, and siltstone in pure white vitric and crystal ash. They extend through the ridge from the north side of Conrad Creek to the south side of Tieton Meadows, beneath the lavas of the Goat Rocks volcano and then the north side of the Tieton Pass. He names this Pluton the Sispus Pass Pluton, which I know nothing about, dear viewer, is exposed over an area of about 1 square mile north of Sispus Pass along the river. Blocks of coarse-grained quartz monzonite in the talus and the dike swarm near Glacier Basin indicate that the Pluton is present beneath the lower tertiary rocks and the Pliocene lavas of Ives Peak and Old Snowy Mountain. Exposures of this Pluton may occur in the unmapped area south of Sispus Pass. I've asked Hannah Shamloo a couple of times, and she's just getting started in the Goat Rocks. She can't know it all. She wasn't aware of a major Pluton. And I'm not sure how major this Pluton is. But if it is a big Pluton, I want to know more about it. And I'm not sure it's been studied a whole bunch. If it's a minor Pluton, then fine. I'm chasing something that's minor. But buried in this 1968 PhD dissertation is possibly something worth more work, more attention at least. Work in the area. I did field work, says Ellingson, in the summers of 1966 and 1967. He's guessing about the age of the Ugly Russell Ranch. Angular unconformity. Here it is again. The Sispus Pass Pluton is one of 3 Plutons within the area. They broke through the crust to become subvolcanic during the early part of the Cascade uplift. Pyroclastics from the Pluton form large local deposits and possibly form part of the Middle Ellensburg Formation near Yakima. Okay, now I'm even more into this now. It was a decision by yours truly to extract the Ellensburg Formation from the menu this winter and save it until this spring. And a bunch of work, like Schmenke's PhD, is on the Ellensburg Formation. I think I'm extra interested now in what Ellingson is saying, that apparently he has some field relations that are taking the pyroclastics of the Sispus Pass Pluton and tying them to some kind of tephras or something in the Ellensburg Formation, which are volcaniclastic whitish layers between layers of Yakima basalt. Sign me up if that relationship holds true. I don't think anybody's really talking about that currently. And maybe it's just because they're not familiar with this PhD. The Goat Rocks White Pass area, deeply eroded, folded and intruded strata. More work needs to be done. And an investigation should be extended south of Sispus Pass where the geology is unknown. For all I know, it's been studied 17 times since 1968. That's my ignorance talking. Or nobody's looked at it. And I doubt that the Goat Rocks project can be that nimble to head to this area, but hopefully somebody can work in that area if it's truly as unknown as Jack says it is in 1968. Moving on. Yeah, moving on. So, another way to go back in time and talk about the early workers in the Goat Rocks. I mean, before the 1960s, basically nobody was in there. George Otis Smith and Israel Russell did a little bit, but not much. And then this guy, who is now a regular character in this winter's series, Don Swanson, I asked him if he had done any work in the Goat Rocks wilderness during his long and illustrious USGS field mapping career. Don Swanson.
In the northeastern corner of the mapped area. And then I had prepared a geologic map of the Goat Rocks itself, the Old Snowy Mountain quadrangle and so forth. And I was just about ready to open file that when I made the move to Hawaii, and then it slipped and I never did get around to it. But thank goodness Kelly Wall came along. Kelly approached me 10 years ago and told me that she was interested in the Goat Rocks. And so I sent her all the stuff that I had, all my field notes, the map and all that stuff. And now she's doing the work that will be a cut or several cuts above what I could have done if I'd published the map in the late 1990s. And I'm really happy to be able to help her and her colleagues in the Goat Rocks. Goat Rocks is a marvelous area. I had actually worked there a bit in the summers of.
There's 2 interviews in the video library with Don Swanson. If you have not seen those yet, it's worth your time. He's a very big name in the world of geology worldwide, let alone the Pacific Northwest. It was a real honor to get a chance to visit with Don directly. Same for this gal here, Kelly Wall, who Don was just talking about. Kelly Wall, USGS, I met with her and Hannah Shamloo and the Goat Rocks team, the Goat Rockers, in late August. Earliest days of the Goat Rocks, am I getting that correct?
Yeah, that's the focus, is figuring out how this thing got started and looking more at the Devil's Horns rhyolite, which I didn't really touch in my project.
Okay.
So I defined the Goat Rocks volcanic complex as the andesitic, dacitic composite volcano complex that was built after that rhyolite unit was in place. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be working on trying to understand what's the relationship of that rhyolite to the ensuing volcanic complex.
I love it. I'm just getting started, and we're all going to be kind of with this project, hopefully, as it goes from beginning to middle to end. So,
yeah.
Can we take advantage of this view real quick?
Yeah.
I know you kind of have a little lunch break going.
Yeah, that's okay.
Can you give us some pointers for just the basics of where we are? I assume we're not in the heart of the Goat Rocks complex yet.
Yeah, so we're actually outside the boundary of the Goat Rocks volcanic complex proper, at least as we've defined it as this cluster of composite volcanoes.
Okay.
Right now, we are in the heart of the Hogback Mountain shield volcano.
Uh-huh.
So this was a basaltic shield complex that consisted of 2 separate vents.
Okay.
And this peak that you can see to our left here,
yep,
that is the lower Hogback Mountain unit. So that was the first vent of this complex here.
Yeah.
Many lava flows erupted from this vent. Some scoria is agglutinated there in this plug. And then we're standing on this hyaloclastite unit. Mm-hmm. So all of this fragmental stuff forms the base of an upper unit, the upper Hogback unit. Yep. And the vent for upper Hogback Mountain is just on that next ridge to the south. I'll point it out here. So there's kind of a thumb like that you can see on the horizon.
Sure.
That is the vent for the younger volcano. And there are hundreds of basaltic lava flows between where we are and the summit of Hogback Mountain.
So it's one of these vents that was last August. Now we're going to listen to another Kelly Wall interview. Get yourself settled in, everybody. This one's going to be a long one. I don't want to rush this, and I want to enjoy these clips. And I want to keep an eye on the live chat. I see Hannah Shamloo herself is in the live chat right now. Han Sham, this is a big day. Making her triumphant first appearance in the live chat. Hannah Shamloo, nice, thank you. Let's go back to Kelly. Now, this was just a couple weeks ago where she's visiting with us directly from her office at Cascade Volcano Observatory. More from Kelly Wall.
And then the geochronology to define the age ranges of these different centers. So we know now that there were 4 major composite volcanoes. Those were the Tieton Peak volcano, Bear Creek Mountain, which fed the Tieton andesite lava flows, and Lake Creek volcano and Old Snowy Mountain. Those are the 4 main. There were some other smaller vents too. And those were active between about 3 million years ago and about 100,000 years ago. So quite a broad range of ages.
Well, maybe it's pushing it too much, Kelly, but like Don thought there was 1 and you ended up saying, no, there's actually 4.
I think Don had an inkling that there were multiple. He defined a Goat Rocks volcano, which then we ended up calling the Lake Creek volcano. So it's all like semantics in terms of the names. But he did distinguish Old Snowy Mountain from the Lake Creek volcano, what we now call Lake Creek. But prior to that, there was uncertainty about where those Tieton andesite lavas came from, for example. So those were linked to a greater Goat Rocks volcano. And Don, his work on the chemistry of some of those Goat Rocks volcano lavas matched or were similar to the Titan andesite. So there was still some uncertainty about exactly the sources of those things. But my colleague Daryl Gussie, who you know well, and in his work with John Lasher and Paul Hammond, they identified Bear Creek Mountain as the source of those lavas. So that started to piece together the story a little bit before I started my PhD.
This is fun. Enjoying the clips. I can barely hear them because I need the audio turned down on my computer. Looking at the live chat, frickin' Google Earth by Glenn is like putting new pins on Google Earth tied with the new stuff in today's episode. He's like, just put a pin in the Sispus Pluton or whatever. Yeah, man. Glenn, love it. Got 3 monitors going. Probably looks like a war room in your den at Liberty Lake. Nice job. I think there's one more from Kelly where she's going to be off screen, but she's going to give us a little narration. Let me make sure that's right. Yeah, we're going to go to Kelly's maps now. And this is the timeline that Kelly has. Kelly Wall, part of the Goat Rocks project. Look at the ages here. I mean, this is purple now. Come on, we're at the end of the alphabet. This is the last episode. We're almost to present day. This is 3.5 million years ago, not 33, not 300. 3 million years ago, 2 million years ago. This is Ice Age time now. And Hannah is taking the lead on investigating the kaboom, you remember, the caldera, the Devil's Horns rhyolite, and that caldera fill that's been roughly dated at 3.2 million years ago. But the 4 major chapters that Kelly Wall put together for her PhD are laid out here. We're going to keep coming back to this timeline. Oh, I forgot. So, yeah, let's do that. So let's start at the beginning. Before we get to the 4 chapters in our book, our Goat Rocks book, let's start with chapter 0, which is the major action that happens before we start chapter 1. Who's heading that? Hannah Shamloo. Han Sham herself.
I'm right. Our master student is only with us for 2 years. In reality,
Yes.
It's 1.5. So yes, if you're feeling confused, it's because we're just blasting questions left and right. So what Finch specifically is doing is looking at the Merriam Creek dacite and the Devil's Horns rhyolite. So these are 2 silicic eruptions in the earliest days of the Goat Rocks volcanic complex. Mm-hmm. And exactly what you said, we have also sampled basement in that area. So that includes Rimrock Lake, some Eocene age things, and then Ohanapakash, and then even some basement that is exposed, like older volcanics that we don't know where the source vent is. So she's characterizing the geochemistry of the basement, and then characterizing the geochemistry of the early silicic Goat Rocks volcanics, and going to compare them. So you and Jeff Tepper talked a lot about spider diagrams. So that's something in our toolbox as well. So like looking at the bulk geochemistry as well as zircon geochemistry in basement versus Goat Rocks volcanics, and seeing if there's an influence or any kind of overlap there. So we're trying to get at how much is the basement influencing Goat Rocks magma and eruptions.
That was Hannah Shamloo from her office. Let's go up to the 3rd floor and a recent video that's in the video library where Hannah and graduate student Haley Finch describe taking the samples that they collected in the field last August. They're in the building now. These basement rocks, these samples of Ohanapakash, Summit Creek, CRB, everything else, they're all up on the 3rd floor now, and Haley Finch, part of the project, is processing those samples. Here's what that process, that's what this lab set of techniques looks like, involving extracting zircon, the mineral zircon, from each of those samples. Haley Finch.
So she's going to walk us through how she does that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do we want to go start with the big rock over here?
We can follow
Finch.
Just where I've put it in the lab.
Finch is
so
in
far.
charge today, and I like it that way.
So we start off, like Hannah said, with something, big old rock.
Mm-hmm.
You go out, you collect a rock. This is a tuff from the Ohanapakash Formation.
Mm-hmm.
And the rock itself can tell us a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm looking for is tiny little zircons that hopefully will be in here. Not every sample is guaranteed to have zircons.
True.
So we have something like this, and we crush it down very fine, to less than 355 micrometers. This is a different sample, but you crush it down and then you sieve it to this size fraction. And you can see here it's about a kilogram of material. And then once we get there...
So you did the crushing? Did
yes,
you? So that's what you were doing this fall, that you
Yes.
were in there with your probably headphones on to protect your ears and to crush and crush and crush. So you took samples like that and got them down to this powder?
Yep. So you crush and then you sieve it down. So I did about 18 samples for crushing, and then now I'm going to be doing the next step, which is zircon concentration, because we don't want all of this. We want the zircons out of this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing 11 of those. I've done 6 already.
Another clip.
This beautiful zircon concentrator developed by Dr. Chris Mattinson and some of his colleagues. He said he started developing the idea back when he was a grad student, but this whole machine is really, really ingenious. Zircon's a really dense mineral, so you kind of treat it like gold in a way where it gets stuck in the grooves. If you've ever done gold panning or anything like that, you agitate the whole sample and the light stuff flows away. So with this, I'm already about halfway done with a sample. I was hoping to have some zircons for you guys, but you dump it into our bucket here and you mix it with some water, and we have this agitator here. It's just like a paint agitator, and you spin it with the water, and you have the water running. Once it flows up a bit, the sample will run over the table. Again, there's not much sample left in here, so it'll be pretty clear.
Listen, this isn't just a demonstration of some technique. These are the actual rocks that were collected in the field. These are the actual rocks from goat rocks that are being separated out. We didn't outsource this to some other place, half a world away. We have the instrumentation and the technicians upstairs to make this all happen, using a piece of equipment designed by another professor here on the second floor, Chris Mattinson. We got it all here, baby. Let's do one more with Haley Finch, who specifically came from Montana to study here because she knew of the reputation of Hannah Shamloo.
You got to be a little more realistic than that.
Yes.
And when crushing a sample takes a few hours, and every sample from like setup to tear down takes about 4.5 hours. So
Good to know.
you got to be a bit more realistic with what can I feasibly accomplish in the timeline before I need to collect my data.
Totally.
And so we're going to be collecting data like SEM. So we have a scanning electron microscope here at Central Washington, which is amazing. Again,
Just across the hall. Yeah, just across the hall.
So I'll be using that later this quarter, early next quarter, and then collecting element data on the zircons, like Hannah was saying, those small stories that these zircons can tell. All right, I'm done with the repipetting, so you can see the sample it's
So
differentiated already,
Yes.
and the densest stuff concentrates in these middle layers, and it tends to be darker in this situation because a lot of those metals or magnetic particles are denser, so like iron rich, magnesium rich, and zircons. So there should be zircons in here.
Very cool.
I'm going to turn off the vibration now, even though
Brandon Fox, I'm considering enrolling at CWU in the near future. You have good taste, Brandon. Who's going to be the next couple of grad students to work under Hannah Shamloo? There's going to be a lot of people applying to work under her. Let's keep going. We're back to Kelly Wall now, and we're to Kelly's 4 chapters, working kind of based on the foundation of the work done by Don Swanson a generation earlier. So we'll go one by one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, through the 4 chapters. These are ages and millions of years ago. I don't even really know these names yet by memory, so I'm going to have to keep cheating and looking at this. But we're going to the Tieton Peak chapter. Remember, these are 4 separate chapters in time when we had 4 separate cone volcanoes standing one at a time at what is now Goat Rocks. Kelly's going to narrate and talk about A, B, C, and D. So these are our 4 chapters, and she stresses here, I'll let her use her own words, but she stresses that this is BADR, This is just A and D, and then we're back to BADR when we get to the final chapter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't remember our petrology work with basalt, andesite, dacite, and rhyolite.
I think it's very interesting. In panel A here, this earliest time, there's a really broad range of compositions. So, and I should have mentioned too, during this time, the Devil's Horns rhyolite erupted. So we have everything from basalt to rhyolite erupting during this period, a very broad range. And then when we move into panel B, we've got these basalt and basaltic andesites, but the main cone erupting here, the Bear Creek Mountain volcano, is erupting a very small range of compositions that are alkalic andesites. You could call those tracky andesite compositions. So the most potassic and sodium-rich andesite lavas in a very restricted range of compositions. So we go from very broad range to very narrow range of compositions. And then during the late creek stage in panel C here, we have overlap with Bear Creek Mountain, but extending to a little bit more felsic and a little bit less potassic, so slightly changing in composition. And finally, during Old Snowy Mountain stage, there's...
Sorry, cut her off there. I think it's a total fluke that she used purple, I think. But I think these are new graphics from Kelly. So let's use some of our community to augment what Kelly's talking about. What do I mean? We have Kelly's maps. And let me pause just a second. So here is this inferred caldera that started with the kaboom during chapter 0. And that caldera fill is exposed inside of this circular Goat Rocks caldera. But the Devil's Horns rhyolite is there on display, the Tieton Peak volcano, the Miriam Creek volcano that Finch sampled. But we've got people here who've been to these places. Lindsay from Seattle in the live chat. Lindsay sharing some color-coded photos. Thank you, Lindsay. This is from the Tieton Peak chapter, descending Conrad Creek into the lower flanks of Tieton Peak volcano. Per Kelly Wall, the Conrad Basin area is promising for more detailed field study. View from Warm Lake of Tieton Peak and the western margin of the inferred Devil's Horns caldera. These elevations are no joke. This is wilderness, the Goat Rocks. Per Kelly Wall, Conrad Basin area is promising for more detailed field study. Conrad Glacier still hanging on. Not Tieton Peak. These beautiful stretches, I think this is only really doable between snow levels and mosquitoes and everything else. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, backcountry people, but I think it's really just a window of late August to maybe late September when you can get up here and have a good time. I'm sure I said that wrong for some of you. I love this photograph, Lindsay. Is this you? Black Thumb, Gilbert Peak, over 8,000 feet elevation. View from Goat Rocks just south of Cispus Pass along the Pacific Crest Trail. Wow. This is all chapter 1 of our 4 chapters that Kelly Wall has broken out from the Goat Rocks. Lindsay can't stop here. A lake at 6,416 feet above sea level. Backcountry Gary chimes in. Gary was there, I think it was just last summer, right, Gary? Tieton Peak, view north from near Warm Lake. Gary photo. Mount Curtis Gilbert, the highest point, I think, in this Goat Rocks backcountry. And Gary can speak for himself, but I think Gary took a sample of this and sent it to Hannah. Very nice of you, Gary. Okay, so that's this first chapter. Let's go to the next chapter where we have 500,000 years goes by and we don't have much to show for it. And now we have a distinctly new chapter, chapter 2, between 1.6 and 1.1 million years ago, Bear Creek Mountains area. We've got some olivine basalts erupting. We've got a few other things happening as well. Here's Kelly's graphic. Bear Creek Mountain volcano, a stratovolcano. And now we just really have andesites and daceites, or tracheandesites, I guess. But look at this. During this chapter 2 time, we have one flow making it almost to the Fred Meyer in Yakima, and another flow making it almost the same distance. Both of those are the Tieton andesite eruptions. So Jeff in Olympia sends a couple photos. This is that benchmark at Bear Creek Mountain, must be the summit of it, right? Stamped in 1961. Goat Rocks Volcano, chapter 2 of Kelly's 4 chapters, right through the Rimrock Lake area, and here comes this lava flow called the Tieton andesite, coming from Bear Creek Mountain and getting all the way to Yakima. We did a episode on the PBS show featuring that. Here's a segment of it that includes meeting Daryl Gussie, who's been part of this series all along. A much, much younger story of an ancient volcano is also here in the area between White Pass and Yakima. The Goat Rocks volcano stood tall for 2 million years, but the volcano died 500,000 years ago, and the top half of the mountain is now gone, ravaged by powerful glacial action. Up here near the Goat Rocks Wilderness, there's a volcanic rock layer, the Tieton andesite, that's super distinctive. Look at these crystals inside of this lava rock. They're enormous phenocrysts of something called plagioclase feldspar. And normally when you have a lava flow with big crystals, the lava flow does not travel very far. But this Tieton andesite flowed 50 miles away from its source. Unbelievably, an andesite lava flow almost made it to what is now the city of Yakima. Look at these columns right along Highway 12. This thick Tieton andesite used to fill this valley wall from side to side. And most of the lava is gone. Most of the columns were taken out of here. And there's just a few scraps of thick, tilted columns perched precariously above the busy Highway 12 between White Pass and the city of Yakima. 100 years ago, field geologists speculated that the distinctive Tieton andesite erupted from Mount Rainier. But recently, Forest Service geologist Daryl Gussie has traced the Tieton andesite on foot back to its precise source, deep in the remote Goat Rocks wilderness.
It took the older Tieton andesite lava flow about 12 years to flow from Bear Creek Mountain to Cowiche Canyon just outside of Yakima. The older flow was dated at 1.64 million years old, and the younger flow was dated at 1.39 million years old, a difference of about 250,000 years between the lava flows.
Those dates put us squarely in the Ice Age, where lava flows and glaciers were competing for space. Thanks, Daryl Gussie, for driving all the way from Colorado for like 30 seconds at most in that episode. But Daryl comes back every summer to do field work. And these are some maps from the Daryl Gussie paper that you have waiting for you at the website. Here are the exact dates of these 2 Tieton andesite flows that are coming all the way from Goat Rocks. They're erupting from Goat Rocks and making it almost to Yakima. And if you know the Rimrock Lake area, there are local features that have portions of one or both of these lava flows. You can read this, right? This is the purple is the older of the 2 lava flows. It's the thicker of the 2 lava flows. It traveled the farthest of the 2 lava flows. And I really got hooked on this back 5+ years ago. And I did Geology 351 one spring with a bunch of students. And we were just obsessed with the Tieton andesite. We kept driving down to this Rimrock area every Thursday afternoon. And I really thoroughly enjoyed learning from Daryl, from John Lasher, from Paul Hammond and others. And the accessibility and the volume of some of this stuff is on display in a beautiful way. Pinegrass Ridge, we commented on a number of times way early in the alphabet. That's the top of the younger of the two Titan andesites. And here's our inferred caldera, which I didn't even glance at before. Man, I'm realizing right now, who's Smith? Is this Gary Smith? What? I missed a paper. Daryl, is this a reference in your paper? Is this Gary Smith? Shit, man. I got to get that. That should have been included in this episode. How much has been worked out about that caldera? Wow, okay. And then the Natchez Heights, where Pat the Pilot lives, at the base of it, and this is the town of Natchez, and this is the pizza place, Bronyar, and here's the split, here's the Y, and now you're coming through Oak Creek and where the elk are fed, and then you lose this thing. Most of the Titan andesite lava is eroded in this portion of the valley, but it was all valley fill at one point, like it is still down here at this flat-topped bunch of grapes on top of the Titan andesite. So this is a good example of a major lava flow that once filled a valley and only scraps of that flow remain. But the scraps are eye-catching because they're made of columns. And the columns are not basalt, but they're this Titan andesite lava. So if you know that drive on US 12 between Yakima and White Pass, and you know these columns, and you've always told your car mates that it's basalt, you're wrong. It looks like the Yakima basalt, but it's actually, it's the Titan andesite lava that erupted during Chapter 2 in the Goat Rocks. This is my photo. I like this one. We're looking down valley. This is a busy US 12, and this is just one little scrap of once full, a valley filled with this lava. Isn't that cool? Almost all of it's been taken out. So I got so interested in this that I started making my own cartoons. You've seen this one back when we were talking about Hammond Land. And here's the eruption of the Titan andesite coming down this former Titan Valley. Less than 2 million years ago, it's coming right through Don Swanson's 25 million year old Titan volcano. So of course it's confusing as hell. This Titan andesite lava flow's got nothing to do with this Titan volcano, except that this younger than 2 million year old lava is coming right through the guts of an old Titan volcano. Anyway, you can go to the little dinky arty kind of community called Titan. You're on top of the Titan andesite. You can look at this map and realize that the Titan andesite lava is going down most of US Highway 12. And it's right there next to the road. These are some old river cobbles of the ancestral Titan River. And here's the base of this Titan andesite flow coming right on top, burying the river, evaporating the water of the river. And all of this is flowing towards Yakima. It's crazy. And yeah, one of the last public field trips I did on a Sunday afternoon had like 170 people show up, and I don't know what it was. I'm not exaggerating. I think it was like 75 cars or something. It's like, this is nuts. But people love accessible geology, and they're curious about things they see, especially if it's along a U.S. highway. So this is the one that I made for myself that I think works. Purple is the older of the two Titan andesite lava flows. Pink is the younger of the two Titan andesite lava flows, both coming from the same source in the Goat Rocks. Jesus, Jordan Carey in the live chat. Your scores here as well. Husband and wife, 2 different offices up on the 2nd floor. You gotta love it. So before the first of the 2 lava flows, there's an ancestral Titan carved into what? The Yakima basalt. Did the Yakima basalt cross the Cascade? That Yakima basalt. So that's no big whoop, except why is there a canyon there? We're already doing uplift, I guess, right? To make a canyon to begin with? Whatever. Then we erupt, according to Darrell, 1.64 million years ago. We pretty much fill the entire river valley with Titan lava. Those are the major fat columns. And then you want to know what, to me, the most interesting question is? from this Titan andesite lava story, why are we removing so much tonnage of older Titan andesite before the next eruption of Titan andesite? In other words, we fill the valley with purple lava, we scoop almost all of it out, and we deepen the valley floor. And we know we deepen the valley floor because by the time the next Titan andesite flow comes down the valley from the same source, it's not nearly the same volume, and it's just filling the very bottom of the canyon, and then it gets eroded. What in the hell is going on between 1.64 and 1.39? That's not that much time to remove a serious amount of fat Titan andesite columns. Wow, I forgot the extent of that and the depth of that question until right now. Love that cartoon. Well, this is where Nick Zentner is complimenting himself on Third Person Thursday. Gross. Move on. I love this map from Daryl's 2018 map. Here's the source. We're still talking about the Titan andesite, right? And now we have this. I should have colored this. This is this is a new color scheme. Whatever. The older flow and the younger flow. We're still talking about the Titan andesite. So here's Bear Creek Mountain. The older flow is doing this. And we know it did this because it's still mostly intact here under Natchez Heights by Pat the Pilot's house. It's still intact here, the royal columns where people climb. There's just the scraps of the older Titan andesite flow here by the dam and downstream of the dam. And then by the time we go, then we scoop most of it out. Remember? We scoop most of it out. Let me go back. We scoop most of it out. And then we go to pink. And the second of the flows has a slightly different course. It even splits, comes back, but it's following a lower valley floor and wimps out right before you get to the Y. I forgot how cool that was till right now, just putting these slides together. Titan andesite. And in the video library, there's a video during COVID, essentially, when I went down there and just filmed my own little video. And I like it. It goes to both, it shows a couple of different spots where you can visit those Titan andesite columns. I didn't include it in here, but that's waiting for you. Keep the pace going. Keep the pace going. So, I mean, look at this. Come on. Here's the Yakima basalt. Look at this. This is, my God. This is the actual fossilized shape of the river valley. And this is the purple, older Titan andesite. Isn't this cool? Like, if there was a highway 1 point whatever million years ago, it would have been right here. And the river would have been right here. And this thing used to fill the entire valley, but most of it's been scooped out, and we just have this remnant hanging here on the side. Wow. Well, Yakima Lance, you remember him, he's back. He said, I got a bunch more artsy shots of the Titan andesite if you want them. I was like, sure. Lay it on me, Lance. Never met you. Thank you for your generosity. Yeah, there's that same spot I just showed you with the student. Here are the old Titan river cobbles, slightly older than 1.6 million years old. Here's all of the, I think this is all older of the two Titan andesites. Yeah, I'm getting excited. It's genuine. I slapped these in here, kind of forgot to even look at them. Wow. Yakima Lance gave us some artsy shots up at the Fifes Peak area, if you recall. So Yakima Lance is back. Old Titan andesite. You've got to love it, Lance. Okay, that's all right in here. Both of our Titan andesite flows are here. I've got just a bit more, and then we're going to wrap up the Goat Rocks Act 1. More visuals from Kelly Wall. This is her 3rd chapter, and the dates, and the super big Lake Creek volcano, a stratovolcano, still mostly andesite and dacite, not BADR. And I was drawn to this late in Kelly's paper, where she has profiles of today's Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, Mount Hood. And then in this cross-section, she's giving us approximations of the scale, the size of each of these 4 chapters, and includes the Devil's Horns Caldera Fill. You can see the extent of it in this cartoon. Chapter 0, 1, 2, that's where the Titan andesites are coming out of Bear Creek Mountain. We're now looking very quickly at stage 3, chapter 3 from Kelly Wall. I don't know what this is about, but that's intriguing. Is that like a Titan andesite thing too, but it's flowing towards Packwood? Huh. And then I barely have anything for chapter 4. I think we're about going there. Yeah. Chapter 4, the youngest of the 4 chapters, obviously. Goat Ridge volcano. I don't know anything about this stuff. Wanted to include it though. And then, yeah, we're going to try to address some of these very young volcanic vents like Spiral Butte and Tumac Mountain and other places this spring in 351. Lindsay from Seattle, one more photo. Old Snowy Mountain, less than 500,000 years ago. Oh, Jordan, you're in the live chat. Jordan and I were hiking out after leaving the Goat Rocks team, and we chatted with this hiker on the Pacific Crest Trail. Jordan, Carey, and I, and Fuji the dog, were hiking back to the car. And we were hiking for a little bit with one of the Pacific Crest Trail hikers. This is in late August of last year. And I'm like, Jordan, I think that's another PCTer. And Jordan's like, hey, how's it going? What are you thinking today? A little small talk. And then I can't remember if Jordan asked him or if I asked him. He's from Australia. Started in Mexico in April, and working his way to the Canadian border. Sounds like a question I would have asked, I guess. What are some highlights of your journey? And he said, today. I'm like, today? It's like recency bias? He's like, no, seriously. Today was the best day of the entire trip. All through the Sierra of California, all through Oregon. Don't get pissed, Oregonians. He said the knife's edge that I just did, like he's talking to us approaching White Packs, he's hoping to get a cheeseburger. He said this Knife's Ridge thing, is that what it's called? Knife's Edge Traverse. He said that's been the highlight of the entire trip. And Jordan Carey's like, well, I live right here. And this guy from Australia is like, you're lucky. You live near here? This is the best place of the whole trip. He hadn't experienced the North Cascades of Washington yet, but still, he was very impressed with the Knife Edge Traverse, which I'd never heard of. And Lindsay just sent this last week, and I'm like, okay, it's official. I got to get up here. Thank you, Lindsay. Jeff in Olympia with a couple of parting shots of the Goat Rocks. Thank you, Jeff in Olympia. One last map from Kelly Wall, outline of all of this stuff. You can see all the geologic stories that have been worked out by Kelly and many of the stories that will be worked out in the future, in the near future, by Hannah Shamloo and Kelly Wall and the rest of the Goat Rocks team. Jeff in Bellingham. I'm getting confused with Jeff's now. Jeff in Bellingham saying you might like this shot of the whole Goat Rock scene, Tieton Peak, Black Thumb, Gilbert Peak, Devil's Horn. Push in, Jeff. Thank you. Purple. Nice. So there you go. I think we're done with the Goat Rocks and Hannah's Goat Rocks team. We're going to transition in just a second to Alphabet Reflections, which is the second of 3 acts today. I don't think we're going to do live questions. I've got too much planned. Oh, why not? Let's do a few. Let's do a few uppercase. Let's just do 5 minutes. 5 minutes of uppercase. I'll just try to address a number. The rapid fire. Why not? Let's stick to the plan. Let's stick to our rhythms and our rituals that you and I have been doing for 5 years. We always do a live Q&A. Let's do it right now. We're at the end of the alphabet. We just finished the alphabet. Congratulations. Here's to you. Jordan Carey wants to know, good pick, who took that? I'll have to figure out how to connect you to him, Jordan. Uppercase for a few questions, please, on Goat Rock's content that we just covered. Elaine, glaciers carving the Tieton River Valley? Yes, glaciers definitely came down the Tieton River Valley as far as Tieton Dam. I don't know which advance that was. It's probably the youngest of the multiple advances. I think that's an open question. But how much did the ice itself, or how much did outburst flooding out in front of the ice just hit Docky? Never done that. Yeah, that uplift story is intriguing for faux show. We got no more questions? Should I just move on? I'll wait another 5 Mississippi. AF Winter, what evidence do we have that the Tieton flow filled the valley versus flowing along the edges of a valley-filling glacier? That's a good question. I guess we can't rule it out. Interesting question. Do we have evidence of an ice advance 1.6 million years ago? That would be my first question, and I'm not sure we have evidence of that. But you're thinking creatively, and you're wondering, even if we don't have evidence of ice advancing 1.6 million years ago, is it possible that much of the valley was filled with ice and then the Tieton andesite and those big fat columns were forming along the margin of the ice? It's a good thought. I've never had that thought. Thank you for the idea. I can't rule it out. Beyond. Arjan in the Netherlands, is a caldera a weak spot in the crust? Good question. Why do calderas pop up where they do and when they do? These fundamental questions are difficult to address. It's important to ask the questions. Many of these, I'm just going to ask out loud and probably not answer. Lottie the Roddy, I thought you were going to have to work today, Tom. You're skipping out of a meeting? Thank you for being here. How many feet of erosion off the Goat Rocks complex? Yeah, I guess Kelly's diagram is maybe the best place to go. I think she's put a lot of thought into visualizing the former size of those stratovolcanoes, and that therefore gives us former elevations of some of those cones, and then you can maybe get to the answer to your question. There might be still some glaciers still active in the Goat Rocks, but probably not much ice up there left anymore. But we have experts in the live chat that can give better answers than that. Saber's wondering, how far do I have to hike in to get to the Knife's Edge from White Pass? I think it's quite a bit of a hike. I think you can approach from Packwood and drive a little closer, but I don't know. Jim, are there any pillow lavas in the andesite? Good question, not to my knowledge. Is it unusual for andesite to flow so far, Hans? Yes, and a pet peeve of mine is when geologists say, this is the largest bloppity-blop in the world. This is the deepest canyon in the world. Meanwhile, they've been to 3.5 states in their whole life. I mean, that just... So to say that the Tieton andesite is the longest andesite lava flow in the world is incorrect, even though I've heard it my whole career. There's an andesite lava flow in Northern California. I think it's the Lovejoy that easily is traveling farther than this one. But the point of your question is, yeah, it's pretty weird to have an andesite lava flow travel 50 miles. And what conditions do you need? Was there something special about the viscosity? Was there something special about the volume? Difficult. Don't know. John, does the end of the Goat Rocks volcanics overlap with the start of the Indian heaven? Thank you, John. We're almost going to the calendar now because I will be talking briefly about my loose plans for Geology 351. It includes the boring volcanic field. It involves the Indian heaven. It involves many of our modern cones and the Osceola mud flow and just wanting to learn new things. And those will be live streamed. So I'll read many of these questions after the fact when I get a chance to see the replay and when the chat replay reappears, and I will jot down many of these wonderful questions. Thank you. I think we need to move on. Okay? Thank you for your live questions. I'm not going to take my shirt off, but we're good news for you. But we're moving on. We're moving on to Act 2 of our 3-act play. And instead of having live geologists appear via Zoom, we're going to try it this way this winter. We'll see what you think. Thanks to Ken Clark for the inspiration to get us to purple, to get us to this concept of an active volcanic arc. How many times did I use Ken Clark's sketch this winter? Thankfully, he provided these free of charge. Otherwise, we'd owe him a lot of money in royalties to do that. This is one way to look ahead. This is also from Kelly's paper, that if we look at the last 3.5 million years, now suddenly we have familiar friends who are still with us, and there's interesting moments in their history when they're active, and apparently moments in the history where they're not active. Although, can we say that? We always have an incomplete record in geology. We're heading with this sort of thing in a bit. But now, looking back at the alphabet. So as I mentioned at the top of the episode today, we have 850 live viewers on a workday, Thursday, here in North America. Thank you for your time. I mentioned at the top of this episode that instead of bringing a bunch of viewers on live and having a roundtable discussion, I'm trying something new. We're looking back at this Cascades A to Z, one way, with a geologist that many of us know by now, Jeff Tepper, University of Puget Sound. And Jeff's assignment was to make a top 10 list of strong reactions that he had to this alphabet, because he spent his entire career, going back to his graduate student days at the University of Washington, studying the Cascades. So of most people, you would think this guy would know everything about the Cascades. What does Jeff have to say?
I think, back to when we started, we were talking about an arc in Idaho and Grello and what's under the surface, and then tomography with Karen and Gene. And normally I think the first thing that popped into my head when somebody says we're going to talk about the Cascades is all stratovolcanoes and volcanic hazards, and we didn't do that at all. I mean, hardly at all, which was super refreshing. For me. So I think the breadth of this and how all these different topics connected is remarkable and really exciting.
Thank you, Jeff Tepper, for doing this, number one. It's a 30-minute conversation, and I'm just grabbing a few of his clips and keeping me out of it. So we're not going to listen to all 10 of his top 10 list. You can do that on your own, but let's grab a few more from Jeff. Yeah.
All right. Number 2 is that it's really inspiring to know that there are thousands of people in the general public all around the world who are interested in the Cascades. And not just the Cascades, but even these esoteric things like spider diagrams and niobium depletions. And, those people have jobs. They live all over the place. They're not going to pay a lot of money to go to a GSA meeting. So there's not really any other venue that I can think of where, those of us who work in the Cascades get to talk to somebody who's interested in the Cascades, but not, another academic.
So it's really old-fashioned that way. I love it.
Okay.
All right.
Number 3 was that a lot of the viewers went way beyond just listening, but are actually engaged in the research or in helping. So there's this growing list of calderas in the Cascades, and you put out a request for people to help with figures and diagrams and things. And so this guy who goes by the pen name of Pauline Kashmir, I've worked with him now for weeks to put together this incredible animation, and he's so dedicated to getting it right, and it takes a lot of time. And so just, the willingness of people like Paul to bring their expertise to this, I wouldn't know how to make that animation. It just makes it feel like, people are engaged in a way that I would not have expected, I guess.
They are, and it's great. So here's Paul in Kashmir. Kashmir is a little beautiful town on the Wenatchee River between Wenatchee, Washington, and Leavenworth, Washington. And yes, Paul spent I don't know how many hours making an animation. If you've been with us the whole alphabet, you remember pretty early in the alphabet, I said, I think this is going to be a visual alphabet, and maybe some of you can come through with photos or animations or something. You're an artistic type, you're a visual type, you're a creative type, and you might be inspired to do something. Well, by God, some of you sent your stuff in. And Paul sent this in. This is the finished, tweaked version of Paul's animation from Blue Time and Jeff Tepper's rollback, including sound effects, I might add. So this was the animation to explain the rollback, the age progression of Eocene magmas starting 52 million years ago in Idaho and working their way towards the Cascades, if you recall. And by the way, I have to share this. With all the drafts of this, it said Tepper Sharp. And then at some point, Jeff Tepper said, Paul, we got to switch these names. You're doing all the work. You put your last name first, okay? Please put your first name, or please put your name first. So, Paul Sharp of Kashmir, thank you. We're in the home stretch of the first way that we are reflecting on the alphabet, and we're taking the cues from Jeff Tepper. So, to continue with the thank yous from Jeff Tepper and from all of us, I thank one more time Tom in Maple Valley for creating all these custom-made GIS maps with our color scheme. Thank you, Tom, a.k.a. Lottie the Roddy, in the live chat. Of course, thanking one more time Google Earth by Glenn in Eastern Washington, Seattle Lindsay in Western Washington, the leaders of Team Caldera, creating a Caldera spreadsheet, creating Google Maps where you can cruise around on your own and visit so many of these discovered calderas, new and old, thanks to Glenn's work. And then the grand creation by Google Earth by Glenn, using Google Earth and cruising around if you have the experience and the expertise in using Google Earth. Thank you, Team Caldera. This just came in from Trevor Contreras, a geologist from the Washington Geological Survey. Nick, wow, way to end the Cascades A to Z with a boom. The Caldera's discussion has been pretty eye-opening. Could you pass along my sincere thanks to Team Caldera? They have really helped us out here at the Washington Geological Survey. We were looking for this information to compare the dates of tuffs and pyroclastic deposits from the green and red units around Enumclaw, Washington. As you know, tuffs are nice, clean things to date using zircons, but we have not had a nice list of sources until now. This is amazing. It's wonderful that the community steps up and is willing to literally dive into the archives, compile and provide it to the community in a few short days. That's not the pace of classical science. I'm preaching to the choir. Anyway, having this list will help us track down other analyses and hopefully make connections that we otherwise would not have. If Team Caldera, you, Hannah, or anyone else takes up mapping tough locations, Paul Hammond's PhD thesis has quite a bit of information between I-90 and the White River about the Stampede Pass Tuff and the Mount Catherine Tuff. Also, if you'd like a better scanned version, I can help you out with that. Trevor Contreras. Look for a new video with Trevor Contreras in the field coming in a couple of weeks. Thank you, Trevor. We continue with a couple more Jeff Tepper reflections, and then we go to another geologist in just a couple of minutes. Tepper.
All right. Well, and then the photographs.
Yeah.
You know, in particular, Gary Paul, but you know, other people, and I just can't remember all the names. But the photographs were so effective at sort of overlaying the science on the real world. And you know, when Gary, a lot of pictures Gary showed, well, some, not a lot, but some were places I'd been. It was great to see them, but I'd never seen them with the context. You know, when you're out in the field, there's no one there drawing the contact for you. So when Gary annotates these, just makes them a whole new level of cool. So.
Whole new level of cool. That sounds like Gary Paul to me. A whole new level of cool. Gary Paul and Elsa the dog. One last look at a couple of favorite Gary Paul rainbow labeled photos created specifically for us this winter. Thank you, Gary. This just came in this morning from Jeff. I don't know where Jeff lives. Looking forward to episode Z. I know this aerial is a bit late and goes with one of the earlier letters, but wanted to share it with you. After learning more about the Uhanapakash and Natchez from your series, I got interested in the bedding that could be observed in these near Snoqualmie Pass. There's a high ridge of 7,000 peaks along Lima Mountain. The USGS map shows a small patch of Uhanapakash sitting unconformably within a larger region of Natchez. I had this aerial in my screensavers and began to notice the difference in the direction and dip of the bedding of the layers. Lining this up with the USGS map, it is indeed an exposure of Uhanapakash with an unconformity in the Natchez immediately below. Also, the location is just west of the Straight Creek Fault. That likely results in some of the folding of the rocks. The Natchez was likely deposited sin fault movement. Enjoy my photo and the clip I extracted from the USGS map. So here's this portion of the Uhanapakash on the USGS map, clipped by Jeff. And here's Jeff's photo that was sent a few hours ago. Blue Natchez, green Uhanapakash, Lima Mountain. All I know is it's up there by Mount Daniel someplace. And I've never really known what to do the whole series with the Natchez anyway. It feels like a kitchen sink unit, but maybe I'm missing a couple major things. All right, Jeff, a couple more. I keep thinking we're done with Tepper, but he had so many of these cool little clips, I just couldn't stop. Let's do a couple more.
Number 7, I've really enjoyed learning about what other people are doing, including projects that are done, plus ones that are just getting started. So you set this up as we're going to focus on Mike Eddy's project at Spirit Lake and Hannah's project at the Ghost Rocks. So learning about those, which are just in their, beginning stages,
right,
is great. But then, like the other day when Dave Tucker was talking about the Hannigan Caldera, I mean, what a cool project. And I've read the paper and I've seen that caldera, dozens of times. But to have him say, here, because I never actually went in the field with him and had him give me a tour of what we were seeing. But when he's, that stuff in that big face, and he's saying, here's, this is this big block that slid in, so cool. So just, hearing what people are doing in different ongoing and finished projects was great.
One more from Tucker. One more from Jeff Tepper. Very cool.
Okay, number 9. Just
more.
watching this has forced me to think a lot more deeply about my own data. And in particular, I'm thinking about this, I don't know, you call it a debate or whatever, an exchange between Mike Eddy and myself about what plate was subducting when the Cascades were initiated. And I had, never really considered that maybe it wasn't the Farallon / Juan de Fuca. So that's forced me to delve into some, papers on rotation and paleo vectors and things that I wouldn't have otherwise looked at. And then I think the most profound of all to me is this question of, is it just
Oh, sorry,
right? Number 10, last.
Drum roll. In no particular order.
No, in no particular order. That's true.
Okay.
Although it does this one sounds like it was ordered. But anyway, it's been a good source of ideas for future projects.
Good.
And I'm not at the point in my career where I'm going to undertake some major field-based project. I don't have students, so it's, I'd have to choose my projects based on what I can actually accomplish. But there's things that people I would like to work with and ideas that I would like to pursue, and a lot of those, if they didn't sprout during the last 5 letters of the alphabet, they were nourished.
Well, let's just finish with talking about that a little bit more. So you've retired from University of Puget Sound. You have no professional need to continue to work in the Cascades. This is essentially for fun. Is that one way to describe it? You would want to just keep going and have some professional collaborations.
Right. I mean, I don't golf and I don't play bridge, so I have to have something to do.
Okay.
And what I like to do is geology. So
yes. So you have a collaboration now going at Central Washington University.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that brings it beautifully full circle. Who are you wanting to who are you set up to advise or work with here at CWU?
So I'm officially, as of maybe this week or sometime very soon, an external person on Finch's project at Goat Rocks, mentored and supervised by Hannah.
Good. Haley Finch, graduate student of Hannah
right.
Shamloo. Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know exactly what my role will be in that, but I think it'll be sort of a geochemical consultant type of thing, and petrologic consultant. And they're going to use tools that I've not used myself, so it'll be really cool to see how do we what type of insights do we get from these other techniques that I didn't ever use. So that's the most formal thing that's set up right now.
Good. Jeff Tepper, University of Puget Sound. We need more reflection on the alphabet. Hannah, release the Kraken. Hannah Shamloo and Jordan Carey, husband and wife, team, Central Washington University, both watching from their offices upstairs live. Hannah's going to come down right now with her notebook. I've asked Hannah to show her notebook. Put it under Docky. And this is another way to talk about the potential uses of this alphabet. When I heard that she was watching each episode in replay, this is the first time she's watched live. Hannah Shamloo I'm talking about. Come in. She would pause, she would record, she would have all sorts of ideas about what she wants to do. Hello.
Hello, Nick.
You want to take my chair?
Release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken.
Kraken's been released.
Okay.
There's no going back now.
This is Hannah Shamloo in the flesh, live and in person. And you brought that notebook.
Brought my notebook.
Okay, all right. Did you have anything you wanted to say directly to these guys before we do anything with the notebook?
Yeah, hi viewers. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. I thought maybe before going through my notebook, I would start off by just sharing a few things about what the series has meant to me and what being part of your community has meant to me. I think Jeff Tepper kind of went over it pretty well, but some of mine are on theme with his, but I wanted to share my own thoughts. So, first off, something that's been so cool is the Goat Rocks Volcanic Complex is getting the attention it deserves. So, you guys are probably excited about the modern active cones, as you should be. I'm excited about those too. So Mount St. Helens, Rainier, Baker, those are the guys that get all the attention, right? It's these extinct volcanic complexes that aren't as flashy. And so this series has kind of brought those to life, and I feel like a lot of you have embraced it with open arms, and that's been really cool for me to watch. So thank you for that. Another thing that has been really uplifting for me is how you guys have embraced the students at Central Washington. So this series has been a platform to highlight the Central Washington students, specifically working with me on the Goat Rocks. And you guys have just been so generous with your support. So Haley Finch's work, I got to show off some of my undergraduates, and that has been really inspiring. So something that maybe isn't obvious is that as a professor here at Central, most of my time is spent teaching. So 75%, to be very specific, I'm teaching in the classroom. Yeah. It's only about 15% of my workload that I'm actually doing research activities. So the only reason research gets done in my group is because of those students. So I wanted them to have the attention they deserved, and you guys have been very generous and kind with your words with them. So thank you for that. And then lastly, something that's been important about this series is it's given me more intentional focus on future research endeavors and also how I'm going to teach. So I know the topics that Nick has gone through A to Z, these are things I'm familiar with working in this area now, but now I have this broad context and specifics, and it's directly informed how I'm going to teach geochemistry in the spring. And it's also informed how I'm going to pose new research questions in the future. So that's been amazing for me. And you guys have been amazing, and Team Caldera specifically, I have to shout out. It sounds like they were getting some attention before I got in here. Yes. But you guys are basically doing the work of a Central Washington master's student. So thank you for that. You are making our lives much more easier if, I'm interested in those calderas. So future work on those calderas will be made possible thanks to you guys. So I appreciate that. So, yeah.
Well done. So, yes, I mean, this is personal. This is your notebook.
It's basically my diary. No.
Well, thank you for being willing to share a little bit with us. Let's just get it under docu and we can have you share however you want to do it.
Yeah, okay, so I think I'll start by saying note-taking is a skill that I emphasize in all of my classes. My students might find it annoying, but I am a note-taker. This is how I actively learn. This is how I find and collect my musings for future grant proposals, for future teaching lessons. I take note-taking very seriously. So as I'm watching, I don't know if you mentioned this, as I watch Nick's A to Z, I'm pausing and starting because I want to make sure I'm getting down the essence of what he's saying, of the important highlights. So I'm not just a passive viewer, I am an active viewer.
Yes.
And this is kind of reflected in my notebook. So I thought if you want to see what's going on in here.
Love it.
There's secrets in here too, so no. So if we flip right to, this is A, so this is note 1. This is our old rainbow colors. These have now evolved. But I thought I could just show you a couple things that I'm excited about from my notes. I mean, we could sift through literally every letter. Every letter has its own, boxed. It has the date. It's got the highlights. It's got drawings that you guys are drawing, all sorts of things. I think something exciting for me as a teacher and a researcher was around letter G. Okay, so this is when you start talking to Jeff Tepper about geochemistry. I'm also a geochemist. These are tools that I'm excited about, spider diagrams, bivariate plots. So during this letter, I paused and I started writing a Python script. And if you guys aren't...
I don't know what that is.
Okay, Python is a programming language. So anyone can learn Python. It's open source, so it's totally free. And it's a tool that I use to visualize and process data. And so I like to teach my students how to use Python too. So as I was watching letter G, I'm like, okay, geochemistry, let's go. So I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if there was a code where you could give it a bunch of geochemical data, much like the data that Jeff Tepper was talking about, and spit out a bunch of chemical plots. And some of those chemical plots were shown in later letters. I can't remember which letter specifically. Right. So yes, one way that this series has literally changed the course of action in my research activities is there is now a Python code that can spit out a bunch of geochemical plots, much like a spider diagram, like you've drawn here, and bivariate plots, something like, maybe I don't have an example, but something like what Kelly and Jeff work on too, is like these different ratios that we plot to tell different stories about the magmas we're interested in.
I didn't know any of that stuff, and it's so cool that like that's totally what you do. Like you're doing an isotopes class next quarter. You're going to be doing some of this exact stuff, these concepts.
Totally, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so letter G is kind of where the birth of an idea for my geochemistry class I'm teaching in the spring came from. So there's this research project the students do. It's a quarter-length project. We're going to go out to the Goat Rocks area, get some rocks. We're going to crush them really fine. We're going to melt them so that they're homogeneous glass. And then we're going to measure the chemistry using the laser in our building on the 3rd floor. So all of that has been birthed from this series, because I'm watching this and I'm like, no, this would be so cool if students were doing this too. Nice. So that's one way. That's a tangible example of how this series has influenced my teaching. There's other things you guys have seen. This is when the rainbow got a facelift.
Rainbow facelift.
Okay. Hammond Land was very special to me. This is an area that we take our rocks and minerals class in one of my 300 level courses. We talk about the Bumping River Tuff, and so this was very special to have more added context to that area. And then I think something else that was really cool was Kelly Wall, of course, big fan, and also Dave Tucker's interviews. So learning about these calderas in our area that I didn't know were there has been very exciting, and that I can see as being future research for me and my students. Once we get through some of the more foundational Goat Rocks work, it'd be great to come back to these calderas.
I only knew about the caldera up at Baker because of you, and then the caldera at Goat Rocks because of you. I didn't know about any of those other calderas.
Same. I should have known, but I didn't.
No, like how would you have known? Though?
I don't
like,
know.
It's
Thank
not
you,
even,
Dave.
Yeah, well, we didn't know about Tucker's paper, and it's not even digital. So like we've got that too.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean those are the highlights, but this is a record now of where my head was at during this whole season.
Yeah.
And I plan to continue to flip through it when I'm making my lectures for geochemistry next quarter, and when I'm writing more grant proposals in the future. So it's been a very productive season, and being part of the community has been super uplifting. So I thank you all for that. It's been great.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes.
Back to my desk upstairs.
You've got meetings upstairs. I wanted to rush because I knew you were waiting in the wings.
Oh, you're fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. Well, that was fun. Hope you enjoyed that little new twist on how to reflect on the alphabet. I think it's time to move on to our last section of the alphabet. I mean, Jordan, Carey, you're up there. If you feel like you want to come down and knock on the door, you go ahead if you want to add anything. Because, again, we have plenty of special guests here in the live chat today. But I think if we don't hear from Jordan, that's totally fine, and we'll just move right on to... do I have anything else here? Oh, yeah, I do. Right. So, weird. So, we're going into the nostalgia moment as well as looking into the calendar for future events and live streams. Thank you for sticking with us towards the end here. We're celebrating 5 years of knowing about Hannah Shamloo. And as I was thinking about this episode last night and putting it together, I'm like, I'm going to look up what the date was that Hannah Shamloo first walked into this office when she was interviewing for a job here at Central. And it's cosmic. It's weird. It was Thursday afternoon, February 27th, 5 years ago. So we are celebrating tonight Hannah's 5-year anniversary of being here at Central, because we immediately offered a job to her when she interviewed. It was that strong. So 5 years of Hannah and her partner Jordan, also 5 years. These two folks have been incredible hires for us here at CWU and incredible additions to my life personally. Thank you. Is Jordan Carey out there?
Keep
Are you coming in?
No, keep doing your
Oh, I just got done. No, this is perfect. Jordan Carey just talked about the 5-year anniversary of Hannah coming to interview. Would you like to talk to these guys for a second?
I'll do a quick, sure, yes.
Good. Jordan Carey, you've heard enough about him. This is not a green screen. This guy's live. Have a seat, Jordan. You want to look right up there into that black dot? Thank you. Did you want to say anything specifically about the alphabet as a whole or teaching, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I'll start with the alphabet as a whole. I don't have any beautiful notes like Hannah does, but like you guys, I have been following along this winter. Been watching the videos mostly live when I can. I got a little behind during Christmas, like I think a lot of us did. Right. But yeah, so these videos, I sent an email to you the other week. You showed it. I'm watching these videos kind of from the teaching perspective, right? I'm teaching 101 here at CWU, and so I'm constantly looking for bits and pieces of things that I can pull and add into my lectures. And there have been a handful of things this quarter, through this A to Z series that I've really kind of gravitated towards. We talk a lot about tectonics in 101. Like that's a foundational plate tectonics of 101, and so a lot of the tectonic stories that we visited this winter, things like most recently the uplift.
Yeah, the uplift.
All the uplift
You were
stuff.
into the uplift.
I was into the uplift stuff. Break off belts, rollback magmas.
Oh yeah.
Green M&M, Jeff Tepper versus
Mike
Eddy. Thank you. All of that I think is really, really tangible things I could quickly bring into the 101 classroom. Paul's diagram, seeing that final version today, is like, I was eating that up. Students will eat that up. So if Paul grants us the
Paul and Kashmir, do you grant Jordan permission to use the animation?
Would love to have that in there. It's beautiful work. So yeah, that's kind of what I've gotten out of it. Yeah. Selfishly too, I watch this. Hannah and I are new to Washington, so I watch this, and it's kind of become a way for me to see places I haven't been to yet. The one place that keeps coming back to me that I need to get to is, I think, Mount Daniel and Circle Lake.
Yes.
I think there's that one particular Gary Paul photo. Maybe it was Lindsay had some from there too, but not that far away, super pretty. I need to get out there.
We do.
So
we do.
I love all those photos. So good job. I think mostly Gary and Lindsay are the photos that have just been stunning work. So.
Yeah.
And the annotations as well. So yeah, I've gotten a lot out of it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Nice job. That's plenty. Jordan Carey in the books.
Thank
you. Made it. You can add this to your resume. Making it on a live stream.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.
Finish strong.
Okay, I will. It's going to get emotional here. Well, that was really fun. Both of those guys. Yeah, 5-year anniversary of that. To the day, to the hour, literally, to the hour. We transition, dear viewer, to the last portion of today. You still with me? I don't know how long this is going to take, but part of it's practical and logistical. It's nuts and bolts, like here's what's planning, here's the date to put in your calendar, here's what's coming, mark it on your calendar if you want to continue learning with me. And some of these will be in-person events that you can attend. But some of it's a little bit nostalgic as well, if you don't mind. We're bordering on self-indulgent now, but I don't know. I was just feeling it last night, putting this stuff together. So that's nostalgic, 5 years ago. And this is nostalgic. So we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of me starting to do live streams, which I didn't know how to do. And so in mid-March of 2020, I don't have to tell you, do I? The world started shutting down. And every day there were more things canceled, and March Madness was not happening, and this and that. And the calendar we have in our kitchen at home, I just kept marking stuff off and saying, well, that's gone. That talk I was going to do in Portland, that's gone. This thing's gone. I was going to do a big thing for the 40th anniversary of St. Helens eruption in 1980, and it was going to be May 18th, 2020. Gone. And I was complaining about it. And I was home with my wife, Liz. And each day I was complaining about it. It's like, this sucks. I had all this stuff lined up. Everything's canceled. What are we going to do? And my wife said to me, with a twinkle in her eye, you need an audience. And this is not going to be a couple of weeks of this. We're going to be at home here for months. And I'm like, I don't think so. And she's like, yeah, it's at least 6 months. It's going to be like this. I'm like, really? She said, my wife, Liz, said, you need to find an audience. I'm not going to be your audience. Bijou and I are not going to be your audience every day. Go figure it out. I'm like, we have to stay at home. She's like, I'm sure you can figure out. You just got this new phone, which is true. I got this phone like 2 weeks before the shutdown. She said, sit in the backyard with that phone, see if you can figure out how to find an audience. And so I was literally sitting an hour later out in the backyard, and I hit the YouTube button on my phone. Well, hello there, everybody. This is Nick Zentner, and I do believe that I'm live. Do you see our wonderful little cat up there? That's a happy accident. I'm in my backyard here in Ellensburg, Washington, and I'm going to see if this is working, see if I can figure out how to get some comments going. Hey, man. Hi. Where are you from? Can you hear me okay? Bijou, would you like to say hi to everybody? Oh, Tom, hey man, it's working. Hi, Kelly. Maple Valley. Oh man, this is exciting. Now, if you're unaware of who I am, I'm a geologist here in Ellensburg, Washington. I'm just testing this thing out. And I'm relieved that I don't have to get a whole nother program. I was trying to work through a laptop, and I was needing to use a different software system. Okay, I got one more of these. This is all within the span of like 20 minutes. And the context for this is back in 2013, I took a couple of my earliest videos and put them on YouTube, and I must have made an account, and I literally forgot that I had that. So there were 500 people subscribed to that YouTube channel, and I hadn't done anything with it from 2013 until 2020. But they were subscribers to the channel. And so here's the moment when I'm realizing that they're all showing up because they subscribed to my channel. And I was excited and also bothered because I had done nothing on the YouTube channel for 7 years because I forgot I even had the thing. How do people know? I didn't expect anybody, maybe one person I thought maybe would see me in their YouTube feed or something like that. Your phone chimed, good Lord. This is all a mystery to me. We got 20 people, I guess, right now, 3 likes. I got a YouTube notification, no shit. Uh-oh, I got to keep it clean here. YouTube notification, wow. This is almost too easy. I was prepared to do all sorts of crazy stuff. I got my, I got my laptop. You know what? I'm getting pretty excited. I got to move. I'm talking into a frickin' phone. And I can sit in the sun and show you the weather here if you're not from Central Washington. All right. So that was the beginning of all this YouTube stuff. Live streams on YouTube. Live broadcasts on YouTube. And since that afternoon, I've made 675 videos in 5 years. 675 videos. Live streams, field videos, interviews, alphabets. And it's been so satisfying to have this community grow and grow and grow. And it's just as satisfying and meaningful to me now as it was back then. I still get the same charge that I got 5 years ago. So that's the nostalgia thing I'm talking about. And my dad died in 2019, and he missed this whole thing. And he would have not been good with his big farmer fingers to get in the live chat or anything, but he would have watched every one of these programs from his living room. My mom would have set it up for him just right, and I have no doubt that he would have been watching every one of these programs. So that's sad that he missed this whole community that we started, because it has all of the hallmarks of my dad, Carl Zentner. It has warmth, it has no nonsense, it has content, it has consistency. It's action. It's not talk, it's action. And he would have been thrilled to see all of you from all over the place watching this. So, looking to the future. This is not the end, of course. We are moving on with programs. These are the things I'd like to highlight. I'll pick up the pace again now. Hopefully, I don't want to get emotional here. So, downtown lectures. You've heard me refer to them. I started the downtown lectures thing long before YouTube live streams. It was an old-fashioned way to just have town hall meetings, essentially, for free, and have people come from town who wanted to come. And then, of course, as the YouTube thing got bigger and bigger, people were coming in from a lot further away than just our county, let's say. But I still like those in-person lectures. And so, as you've heard throughout this winter, I will be doing 3 brand new lectures, live and in person, and they will be recorded for YouTube. There'll be 3 of them, and they'll be based on all this Cascade stuff that we've learned together. I don't know how I will do it. I have a month to figure it out. So here are the dates for the downtown lectures one more time. Many of you already know this. Downtown lectures, April of 2025, 3 new lectures, 3 consecutive nights. Thursday, April 3rd, Friday, April 4th, Saturday, April 5th, 7 p.m. each time, Pacific time, not live streamed, but recorded by a film crew. Morgan Auditorium. That's the Morgan Middle School with this beautiful old restored historic auditorium. There's 700 seats in there. There's plenty of seats. The last couple of winters, we've had maybe 500 people or something like that. There's been plenty of empty seats. That's free. People typically show up about 6:30 and they open the doors, and many of the people sitting in the crowd are friends. And they've met each other in the live chat, or they introduce themselves to each other, and there's just a nice vibe in the room. And because they're 3 nights in a row, many of the people who come to these things go off on their own, and they do field trips on their own during the days of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But each night, I'm giving the lectures. And I am unavailable during the 3 days to visit with people because I'm working on the lectures and getting my head right. But I always try to visit a little bit before and after each lecture. So if you'd like to meet for the first time, I'd be happy to do that, but I'll just be seeing you at the venue each of those 3 nights. Okay, that's downtown lectures. but you say, I don't want to come to Ellensburg. I'm not going to go. Is there anything more that I can enjoy with live streams? You also know this. I've been saying it all winter. We're saving the modern Cascades until this spring. And in this spring, there are live streams that are happening on this YouTube channel. We're going to be focused on the modern Cascades. This is a new photo you haven't seen from backcountry Carey. Blocks of pumice erupted from Glacier Peak volcano, and plenty of other very young, active stratovolcano scenes. So here's what I can promise. Starting on Tuesday, April 8th, there will be a live stream every Tuesday and every Thursday at noon Pacific. So if you're a calendar person like I am, go ahead. You can count on it. Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, from noon until 1. So they're just hour-long lectures. It's a class. There's 24 kids in there. They're all geology majors. It's going to be a different room than we did 4 years ago. It's going to be in the lab room. There'll be a lot of natural light in there. Not the Wonder Boy and I are going to design a whole new setup to capture what's going on in the classroom. But there will be live programs, and I'm expecting that most of the students, hopefully all of the students, will be fine being on camera. And so there'll be audio, and you'll get to know the students in the room as well as me. And I think I'm going to pull the chalkboards right into the classroom. And we'll be doing chalkboard stuff and other things, and there'll be the live chat going, and there'll be some question and answer, and I think I might even have some of the students look into this black dot, just like Hannah and Jordan did. I'll have some of the students after class answer some of your questions or whatever, or moderate or something. That'll be an experiment. I'm looking forward to trying that. Geology 351 is different every time I teach it, and this spring will be devoted to the Cascades younger than 3 million years ago, and the Ellensburg Formation, right? Keep it going. We're approaching the top of the hour again. I told you this was going to be a long one. I got a few more minutes. There's more things you can add to your calendar if you like. Fridays at noon. You know there's a lecture tomorrow. That's the last Friday at noon lecture of the winter quarter. But Hannah, Shamloo, and I have put together 5 new lectures for the spring quarter. And you already know 2 of the lectures. So if you want to come and meet Mike Eddy in person, you can come. Visit campus on Friday, May 16th, and hear Mike Eddy give a talk in person to our geology department. You know Isla Pamuchu a little bit from one of the episodes. So we have Isla on May 9th and Mike on May 16th, and they are the 2 leaders of the Spirit Lake Pluton project, and they are going to try to do some field work at Spirit Lake between those 2 Fridays. And I'll probably try to rope Isla and Mike into 351 somehow as well. So those are big gets to get those 2 superstars in the world of geology research to come to Central, but they'll be here. And I don't mean to belittle the other 3 visiting geologists as well. Nikki and Brennan will be talking about the mining industry, and Sarah, Jeff Tepper suggested we contact Sarah. He knows of her up at Simon Fraser University, and she's talking at, what does this say? Mount Meager Volcanic Complex, and she does similar work to Hannah. So we're bringing Sarah down from British Columbia. Okay? We still have 825 live viewers. I got a few more things to put on your calendar, or at least to let you know about. Ready? If you are veterans of my channel, you remember a video that I did last summer. And there's an organization that's very important to me. It's called the Bronze Chapter. And this is what the website looks like. And it's a organization headed by Denise. And I'm looking for Denise in the live chat right now. Denise, are you here in the live chat? I asked Denise. Denise is in Colorado right now, but she was going to try to tune in and comment live. And Denise's husband has been with us as well. I'm hesitating because I want to pick my words carefully, and I asked Denise and her team to write a statement for me that I could read to you, to give you the proper background for what's on the calendar. Good, Denise is here. The Bronze Chapter. So Denise, the founder of the Bronze Chapter, is here. You can see her in the live chat right now as the Bronze Chapter. So if you hear what I have to say right now and you are wanting a little bit more information about the Bronze Chapter, you can go right to Denise right now in the live chat. Thank you, Denise, for being with us. So here's what I have planned. Now, first, here's a picture of Denise from last summer, and Glenn also on the board of the Bronze Chapter. And I didn't think to put this in the video library, but this video, if you type into Google or YouTube search box, Bronze Chapter, Denise and Nick or something, you'll find what I did with these guys last summer. But I have things planned this summer with the Bronze Chapter. Here are 3 short video clips from what I did with the Bronze Chapter last summer.
Was in the bottom of the ocean 160 million years ago and somehow got to Canada before it got moved in here. But we know it's an ice story because it's 2 boulders sitting on the surface just like we had at the other side. Damn. Yes.
So where in Mexico?
Where can you find Mexican rocks that look like this? There are some stuff, and I don't know. I've never been down to Mexico to look at the rocks there. Yes, Alex.
How does the rock form?
This rock forms when you take... Have you seen pictures of Hawaii with orange lava coming out of a volcano? Hopefully you have. When that lava turns to rock, it's basalt.
I'm going to show you 2 more short clips before I tell you what's going to be put on the calendar, but let me give you a little bit of background. Similar to my dad, who I've been thinking a lot about recently. My dad said, I don't want any more talk, I want action. Like, he was involved in county government, and he was not afraid to vote what was on his mind, even if he was the only no in the room. And he was often the only no in the room. He wasn't afraid to vote no when everybody else was saying yes. And when a bunch of those county board members went to my dad's funeral, they would all say the same thing to me. I'm sorry for your loss, and I don't think I ever voted the same way as your dad, but I respected him. I respected his opinion because he did his homework. So I'm not interested in talk. I'm interested in action. And I'll let Denise's statement speak for itself. But we have a problem in geology, and I want action instead of just talking about the problem. So you'll know what I mean in just a second. Let's go back to 2 more clips to give you a sense. I'm going to do 2 more weekends similar to what you're seeing from last year.
You've been with us the whole day, so you kind of know what I like to do. Shall we do some observations? Not to put you on the spot, but like, what do you observe here before we tell a story about this stuff?
There's like jagged parallel lines almost.
I love it,
yes. Just kind of running the same direction.
Jagged parallel lines,
There's some of these veins that you have, that like they look less veiny, like right here, or smaller than what I'm used to seeing. But there's also longer ones here.
Good.
That's what I've observed also.
Good.
There's pretty much nothing smooth that I see around here.
One more.
Don't just come from the West Coast, who maybe come from the South, and experience for POC community is just different there. There's a distrust of open spaces, what can happen in open spaces. Open spaces aren't necessarily safe spaces for people of color, especially kids of color, especially Black kids, especially Black boys. And so coming to our camp, it's a really special space where not only kids can feel free, kids can be free, and parents can experience, the freedom of letting their kids be free, but also of seeing their kids be free.
I mean, it's happening right now. These kids have been free range the whole day, and we're in a crowded state park. Maybe if that family was here by themselves, there wouldn't be that free range kid thing. Is there strength in a program like you have to give the parents this freedom to let go a little bit?
I believe so, because I think it's all about community.
Yeah.
And we're all about community. We provide a safe space in community. We look after each other. We look after each other's kids. I'm like adamant about providing a safe space for any place I take people with the Bronze Chapter.
Okay. So I'm keeping an eye on the live chat. Most of you are understanding what I'm doing right now. Maybe some of you are confused what's up. This organization is important to me, and encouraging smart people of all backgrounds into geology is important to me. We have a shortage of motivated, smart students. And if you ask me, we have a shortage because we're only reaching a subset of this country's population. There's a lot of smart people who would work hard and put their head down and do a lot of interesting work and be easy to work with, but we can't get them here because they're not invited. And it's a subtle set of issues. So, what can we do? What can I do? Denise and I have set up 2 geology weekends. This is the wrong date. I'm sorry. This is in June. I'm going to get you to the website in just a second. I'm sorry about this. So the first weekend is in June. Disregard this. It's based out of Ellensburg. And I am spending the weekend with the participants. And we're staying at Lazy F Camp. And 45 people is the capacity. Here's the cost per person. And here's the cost for camp participants who need some financial assistance. 2 nights lodging at the camp, 5 meals, and you're spending the weekend with me and Denise and the other volunteer leaders of the Bronze Chapter. And the other geology weekend, which will be happening August 15th to the 17th, will be happening at Mount St. Helens with Hannah Shamloo and myself, spending the weekend with the participants at the camp. We want to encourage young students who would not normally go on into science or geology by getting them to this camp, either of these camps. Hannah and me working with 45 campers. Same cost per person. Same cost if you need some help with the cost. And we're staying at the Mount St. Helens Science and Learning Center. 2 nights lodging, 5 meals, expert geology program. So Denise set this all up. You might remember a video I did last year asking for ideas about hosting a camp. This is part of what I was up to. And so I gave Denise a list of 35 different options, and she chose these 2 as the best fits for her program. But before you get too excited, this is not an invitation to everyone. Do you understand why? I hope so. In case you don't understand why, let's hear from Denise and her team and get some words that are proper for this situation. I'm going to read it as quickly as I can. Denise Rochelle founded the Bronze Chapter to help address barriers to outdoor recreation and education for Black and Brown communities. The Bronze Chapter fosters learning and confidence building for outdoor recreation through a program of enriching, experiential, and outdoor opportunities. The Bronze Chapter also seeks to increase environmental awareness and stewardship among Black and Brown communities by prioritizing education and self-sufficiency, key drivers to encourage care for our planet. For too long, diverse voices and perspectives have been excluded from the geosciences. Despite black individuals comprising more than 13% of the U.S. population, they earned less than 3% of physical and earth science doctorates in 2016. Moreover, among full-time geology professors, only about 1% are black. This underrepresentation is not merely a matter of feeling out of place. It is a systemic issue rooted in historical and ongoing barriers that discourage BIPOC individuals from entering and advancing in these fields. Experiences of isolation, lack of mentorship, and even overt discrimination are common among black and brown students pursuing geoscience education. These challenges contribute to a cycle of exclusion, limiting diversity, and perpetuating a homogeneous geoscience community. We're incredibly grateful that Nick has been a strong supporter and advocate of the Bronze Chapter's mission. He partners with us last year to introduce the Bronze Chapter's community to geology at one of Washington's most visited state parks, Deception Pass. Nick is partnering with us again this year at 2 camps to explore the geology of Ellensburg with Hannah Shamloo at Mount St. Helens. We co-created these camps to connect more people of color and their families to the geological history of Washington State and to increase access to historically underrepresented groups in geology. Your support makes our BIPOC geology camps possible, creating safe, inclusive opportunities for BIPOC individuals and families of all backgrounds to connect with the natural world and experience a true sense of belonging. Help us expand access and representation in these spaces by making a financial contribution today at thebronzechapter.org/donate. I never ask you for support. I rarely ask you for money for anything. This is something that's important to me, and if you feel compelled to support this chapter, it would be helping lower the cost, maybe even remove the cost of young black and brown kids and their families this summer with me in Ellensburg in June for a weekend, with Hannah and I and 45 more campers in August. Or just in general, supporting the Bronze Chapter if you feel like this is something that you want to get behind. How many meetings have I been at on this campus over the years talking about this problem? And what's been done? 0. I'm tired of the talk. Let's actually do something about it. And in my own small way, we're doing something about it. Okay? I got a few more things, but Denise is in the live chat if you want to ask her a couple more questions, identifying herself as the Bronze Chapter. And then again, if you can go directly to this website, you can get more information. You can get all sorts of detail from these folks. But it would be wonderful to see a few donations going directly to this chapter, the Bronze Chapter, for the Geology Weekend specifically, or just in general for their worthwhile efforts. Of course, it's all volunteered. Hannah and I are donating our time. The whole camp is run by a bunch of volunteers. It's about as pure as it gets. You know that I like old-fashioned stuff. This is old-fashioned. This is as old-fashioned as it gets. Grassroots stuff. Finally, a few more items that are totally different than that you can add to your calendar. Kyle MacLachlan, the actor, Stefan Milo, the YouTuber, Sean Wilsey, the YouTuber. All right, well, I told you this back at the beginning of the alphabet. This is an honest-to-God celebrity. You know this guy, right? Twin Peaks, Sex and the City, Portlandia, on and on and on. Kyle emailed me out of the blue last fall and said, I like what you're doing with this geology YouTube stuff. Would you like to do something with me in Seattle in March? And since then, I've gotten to know Kyle a little bit. He lives in Hollywood, but he comes up to Washington every once in a while. He grew up in Yakima. He's had questions about the Titan andesite, actually. And so Kyle and I are making a joint appearance in person Friday, March 14th from 6 to 9 at the Burke Museum on the campus of the University of Washington. And in addition to Kyle and myself, there's a winemaker, Dan, and a fossil person as well. It's a fundraiser, so there's a charge. And you're like, I don't care if there's a charge. I like Nick Zentner, and I certainly like Kyle MacLachlan. I'm going to get a chance to visit with both of them in the person? Yes. But you might want to pump the brakes. You know why? Kyle MacLachlan's an amazing guy. They're charging almost $300 a ticket. I don't know if you got that kind of cash. We don't. So I understand it's a fundraiser, but to be totally honest, I was disappointed that after I agreed to this thing, they're charging that much. But whatever, that's their thing, and I've committed to it. I think I need an agent. Providing my services for free all over the place, and yet whatever. So if you got that kind of cash laying around, I'll see you on March 14th. There's still some tickets available, apparently. But otherwise, I wanted to include it just to basically brag that I know Kyle by now. But other than that, wow, that's a lot. This guy materialized just recently. Are you a fan of his? I must admit that I've only seen a couple of the videos that he's done, but Stefan grew up in the UK, and he now lives in the Pacific Northwest, and he makes archaeology videos. And Stefan kept hearing that he should make a video with me. He's not that familiar with me either. And so I had a nice conversation with him using Google Meet a couple days ago, and I'm excited. I'm officially excited. And Stefan has an agent, and Stefan has sponsors and everything, so I'll probably learn about all that world by working with him. But I think we're going to make a couple of videos this spring. And if you're unfamiliar with Stefan's YouTube channel, he's very, very popular and makes excellent videos on archaeology primarily around the world. Who's this? Yeah, somebody's a Stefan fan. Bunch of them are, yeah. And finally, more in the geology realm, some of you remember that I was trying to do a joint in-person appearance with Sean Wilsey, who many of you know from the College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls, Idaho, and we got smoked out last August when we were going to do that. But Sean contacted me about a month ago and said, you want to try this again? Can you plan that far ahead, given your situation? And I'm like, yeah, I think we're good. So Sean and I picked a new date of this coming summer, Saturday, June 28th, 2025. And we're going to do 2 little public lectures, I guess, and mostly just visit with people, whoever wants to come. So these are both in central Idaho. That morning, Sean and I will be talking both with whomever there is a little morning session. I don't have a time yet, in Pioneer Park in Stanley, Idaho. And then Sean and I are going to disappear and make a geology video together during the day. And then by evening, we're going to do a little potluck with whomever wants to bring some sandwiches or some wine or whatever in the city park in Chalice, Idaho. And I think Sean and I are going to make some field videos together the day before and the day after as well. Finally, I don't even know if these are public talks, but I'm going to share them anyway because maybe you can talk your way into it. I don't know if there's an admission charge either. The Ice Age Floods Institute is holding a big gathering at the Discovery Center Museum outside of the Dalles, Oregon, down the Columbia River Gorge. And I'm giving some lecture of some sort combined with some sort of dinner on Friday, May 2nd. I don't have the time, but I'm sure you can find it if you're interested. They might charge you to get in, but hopefully you'd be able to attend if you wanted to. A week later, or less than a week later, I'm going to be up in Omak, Washington at some sort of dinner, and I'm giving some talk about the Okanagan area. I don't know that much about it, but same idea. There might be a charge to get in, but I've made myself available there. And then the folks down at Oregon State University invited me to be the Condon public lecture person this year and give a talk on campus in Corvallis on this night, Wednesday, October 29th. So I'm getting a lot of invites to do many different kinds of things, and sometimes if they just catch me at the right moment or something, I go, sure. And quite often I say, oh, I've got a lot going on. Thanks for the invite, but not really. So those are a few of the other things I have on my calendar for 2025. Okay. Couple final comments, final thoughts, and we are done with this extra long episode, Session Z of Cascades A to Z. Thank you for being here. I think I thank you every time, at least once, probably multiple times during each episode. But I want to do it one more time. You keep showing up, whether it's live or in replay, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the geologists who donated their time, speaking of such matters, to this particular alphabet and made appearances on camera. I'll read this quickly. In order of appearance: Mike Eddy, West Lafayette, Indiana; Aaron Donaghy, Las Vegas, Nevada; Hannah Shamloo, Ellensburg, Washington; Jordan Carey, Ellensburg, Washington; Bob Miller, San Jose, California; Jamie McDonald, Fort Myers, Florida; Jeff Tepper, Tacoma, Washington; Marcia Bionnerud, Appleton, Wisconsin; Megan Anderson, Olympia, Washington; Jason McClowry, Oregon City, Oregon; Don Swanson, Hilo, Hawaii; Isla Pamuchu, Palo Alto, California; Sky Cooley, Mission Valley, Montana; Andrew Sadowski, Ellensburg, Washington; Lydia Steisch, Portland, Oregon; Chris Mattinson, Ellensburg, Washington; Dave Tucker, Bellingham, Washington; Eric Cheney, Seattle, Washington; Gary Smith, Albuquerque, New Mexico; and Kelly Wall, Vancouver, Washington. I'm sure I left a few out, but I wanted to thank all those very kind, humble, hardworking geologists who helped us immeasurably this winter. All right, collect yourself for this last part. So, if you joined us in the middle of the alphabet, we had a family emergency in November of 2024, and this is my wife, Liz. And because of my new connection with Kyle McLaughlin, who was in Walla Walla, Washington in early November, Liz and I drove down and spent the day with Kyle and his friends. And Liz was excited. And we got a chance to visit with Kyle, and Kyle is just as nice as you would hope he would be in real life, and humble. And so, shortly after this photo was taken, my wife had an emergency brain injury, unexpected, dramatic. She was in her high school classroom after school and collapsed and had a brain aneurysm with massive amounts of bleeding in her brain. And she was rushed to the Ellensburg Hospital and then immediately airlifted to Seattle and had surgery that evening, November 14th of 2024. And we were in the intensive care unit at Harborview Medical Center in Seattle for the next 3.5 weeks. And for a moment there, a few moments there, it was looking like this was going to be the last photo that we were going to have of Liz. Now, going out in style with a Hollywood legend, it's a pretty good last photo to have, but we were truly hoping that was not going to be the last photo. And so between these two dates, the immediate family, our 3 boys and I, were mostly based out of Harborview in Seattle. But once a week, I would drive home to Ellensburg and I had lots of support, both emotional and logistical support, from neighbors of ours, Hannah and Jordan, who took care of Bijou and took care of me when I was home once a week. And when I was mostly in Seattle for that stretch, viewer Adele and her husband John opened up their house to me and our whole family at one point during Thanksgiving time. And so I'd like to thank Adele and John for the meal every night and the emotional support and all the rest of the support that was there. And so when I think of this winter, of course I will think about you, and I will think about all the warm wishes that you had in our situation with Liz's grave situation. All the comments that you put on those updated videos, all the prayers that were sent in from all over the world. And right now, Liz is 100% recovered, and she is teaching full-time at Ellensburg High School here in late February. So in a way, that whole ordeal seems just like a bad dream, like it never even happened. But while it happened, the stress for all of us, except Liz, as she says, she's like, I don't remember any of it. You guys were like, I know, going through everything, but I don't remember any of it. But as she has recovered to the point where everything is working well, all the body parts are working well, she's teaching full-time, she's playing pickleball, she's doing yoga, she's dancing, she's doing everything. It's just a miracle. And so thank you to the specialists at Harborview, all the surgeons and the nurses, and everyone in support roles over there. And we feel extra special here in Ellensburg. And I think it's just now wrapping up this alphabet, which has been a terrific distraction for me during all of this. I think it's just now that I'm going to fully realize what just happened over the winter. But it's good news. It's good news to realize that there's so many people who are ready to help. And that includes you. You helped us, and you helped me. So thank you. And so goodbye from Cascades A to Z headquarters in Ellensburg, Washington. And Boyd in Boise, Idaho, reports that he's all set up for the basketball tournament next month. And Frank in Spokane says he asked ChatGPT, look for videos that show the calderas in Washington state. And ChatGPT came back with, for a deeper dive into the region's volcanic history, consider exploring the YouTube channel of Nick Zentner, a geology professor at Central Washington University. His channel features a series of lectures and discussions on Cascades volcanoes, including topics on calderas and supervolcanoes in the Pacific Northwest. And don't forget Bijou the cat. It's been a great winter, and the community that we have will continue. I won't be with you live for quite some time, but there's past live streams to watch if you really miss us. Or you probably need a break too. You're like, I can't keep up. Now I got to work my butt off to get back up to live and finish the alphabet like Hannah and Jordan just did. But now the pressure's off. You don't have to keep up with anything. But as I said a while back, I still have that excitement doing this. Just like I did 5 years ago when I hit the button on this iPhone. Never dreaming that I'd be broadcasting live to Baffin Island in Canada or any of these places. And as I mentioned before, seeing these photos from inside of people's homes, and homes that are half a world away, and homes that are just down the street, It helps make it more real. And each time I see these photos, which I did show at the end of Rainbow Connection episode earlier this winter, each time I see these photos, I just have a mix of pride and disbelief and fuel to just keep going. It is unbelievable when I really think about it, that through this setup designed by Nat the Wonder Boy, and even when I was using the setup of this little phone right here on Larry the Ladder, to have the technology that even somebody like me can operate and reach so many homes in so many places with so many languages and so many backgrounds. Now that's a miracle also. It's a miracle of science, but it's science combined with love. Gary Paul, influence in Edinburgh, Scotland. Thank you, everybody. I love you. And goodbye from Ellensburg, Washington, USA.